Evening, everyone. My name is Elena Fagotto, and I'm the coordinator of Cambridge Mothers Up Front. Thanks for being with us this evening. And I'll be your host tonight. Welcome to the Costly Gas Trap, a burden to consumers and obstacle to our clean energy transition. So while we wait, I encourage you to enter your name in the chat. And maybe the city or town that you're, participating from. And you can also, if you can also rename yourself. And again, add your city or town to your name. And if you work with an elected official, it would be great if you could let us know, either by renaming yourself with also the name of the elected official, or putting that in the chat so that we can make sure that we thank the elected officials that you're affiliated with. Okay, so I'll stop. I'll go over the ground rules in a moment. Again, welcome to the Costly Gas Trap. Please write your name in the chat and where you're participating from, your city or town. You can rename yourself with your city or town. And again, if you're working with an elected official, make sure that you let us know. Okay, on to some ground rules for this evening. So please mute yourselves. We will, you should be able to talk during Q&A, but not during the presentation. So make sure you're muted all the time. Write your name and city in the chat. I told you that already. Rename yourself to add your town. Again, let us know if you work with an elected official. We and the chat, we actually decided to keep the chat open. We will not use a Q&A feature, so you can enter your questions in the chat. And the meeting, we plan on recording the meeting, so the meeting will be recorded. So if you don't want to appear on the meeting, please turn off your camera if you wish. Okay, again, welcome everybody. And this is the agenda for tonight. So we will start with a presentation by Dorie Seavey. We will continue with the presentation by Steve Owens. And then there will be about 15 minutes for Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay. And I want to tell you something about Mothers Up Front. So Mothers Up Front started in Cambridge in 2013. We're Mothers Up Front, but we're actually mothers and others, and everybody's welcome in our movement. And we are a grassroots organization, so we're all volunteers here tonight. And we work together to build a healthy and livable future for all children. And we do so by focusing on climate justice and collective action for systemic change. So yes, individual actions are important, but we can achieve much more when we work together as a group, when we organize. And this is what we do. We essentially do community organizing to build a good future, good and healthy future for everybody and for all children. And, for example, the climate bill that was signed into law last fall in Massachusetts was an example of what we can achieve by working together as a group and with our allies. So I already reviewed the rules with you, so no need to do that anymore. Please keep muted. Please add your questions in the chat, and Diana later will collect all the Q&A questions for Q&A, and you will also be able to raise your hand. Again, the meeting is recorded, so turn off your camera if you don't want to be recorded. And this event is sponsored by Cambridge Mothers Out Front. but also by some wonderful co-sponsors that I would like to thank. So the event is co-sponsored by Cambridge City Growers, Mass Audubon, Massachusetts Sierra Club, HEAT, Crew, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather, First Parish Unitarian Universalist Cambridge Environmental Justice Team, Gas Transition Allies, the Ocean River Institute, the Old Cambridge Baptist Church Creation Justice Team, 350 Mass Cambridge Somerville Node, and the YWCA Cambridge. So we're thrilled to be with you tonight and thrilled to have the support of all these co-sponsors. So we're here tonight to learn more about the harms of natural gas. It's called natural gas, but it's it's fossil fuel, it's methane, it's a greenhouse gas that traps heat in our atmosphere, and it's a costly system to maintain, and we are here tonight to learn about the problems with keeping investing in our gas infrastructure, and but we're also going to be talking about the future that we want and the future that we can achieve if we organize and work together. And so we will learn about some bills that supports clean heat alternatives that are achievable. And we'll hear from two speakers, and then we'll have time for Q&A. Now, let me start by introducing our first speaker for tonight. So we're very excited to have with us Dr. Dorie Seavey. She's a climate and energy system economist, and her work focuses on the economics of natural gas grids and managed transitions to wind these grids down with energy efficient and cost-effective solutions. She has served as a principal investigator for in-depth studies of gas distribution systems in the states of Illinois and Massachusetts and the cities of Philadelphia and Chicago. Dorie is also the author of Leaked and Combusted, a national investigation of the challenges and opportunities for reducing gas-related emissions. Some of you probably know her work related to the Gas Systems Enhancement Program that we have here in Massachusetts, also known as GSEP, which she will discuss with us tonight. She's a leading expert on GSEP, and she earned her PhD in economics from Yale University. Welcome, Dorie.
So shall I share screen now?
Yes, please.
There we go. So can you let me know if you can see this?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Well, I'm very pleased to be here. Mothers Out Front holds a special place for me because it's actually where I began my research work to understand gas distribution systems. So it means a lot to me to be here tonight.
Dorie, your speaker notes are over the slides.
Okay, that's what we didn't want. So gonna
okay.
So now
I can try. Do you want me to share your slides and
does this have the same problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know a way around this, Elena. That would
I think you need to share the window, Dorie, not the whole screen.
I'm sorry?
Share the window of the Google Doc, not the entire screen.
I can also, you know what?
Click on slideshow.
I did, but I need to see my notes. So
okay, so why don't I share your slides and I advance them for you?
Okay,
Dorie. Let me see if I can do that. Apologies for that. Okay.
It's funny, it worked when we were testing it.
When we were testing it, it's okay. Okay, so I'll go with share screen. Okay, I'm gonna share the entire screen, and I'm gonna, okay. Does it work?
That looks nice.
Okay. So Dorie,
Are we all set, do you think?
yes.
Very good. So I wanted to say that I'm often in the position of talking about GSEP in a macro context, what it's going to mean for the whole Commonwealth. But tonight I'm going to focus in on one gas territory, Eversource Energy NSTAR, and also give attention to one municipality, Cambridge. And I know that some of you are from other communities, but I don't want you to worry because I think this presentation can inspire you about how the same approach can be used in your gas territory. And I'm confident that many, if not all, of the conclusions that I make will apply. So just to give you a roadmap of my 15 minutes of remarks this evening, I'm going to begin with a brief intro to Eversource Energy Territory, which I'm going to call NSTAR throughout this presentation, and take a look at Cambridge's reliance on fossil fuels. Next, some framing on where I see the US gas industry is right now in terms of its life cycle. And then we'll dive into NSTAR's capital spending and GSEP program, plus look at how this spending impacts customer bills. And finally, in terms of what we can all do, I'll close with some information about an exciting grassroots electrification effort in Newton that is challenging a specific GSEP pipe replacement project. Next slide. So here's a map of all the investor-owned gas utilities in the Commonwealth. There's 6 of them, plus 4 municipal gas utilities. And I'm focusing on NSTAR, which is the territory in green. The Cambridge-Somerville area is the tiny green dot swimming in purple just off the harbor. NSTAR distributes gas to about 300,000 customers in 52 communities in central and eastern Massachusetts. And Cambridge is NSTAR's 3rd largest city with 31,000 customers, 55,000 if Somerville's included. The 2 communities have about 250 miles of mains between them. The vast majority of NSTAR's customers are residential, 90%, and that's really true for all gas utilities. And the majority of sales and revenue are due to residential customers, and that's something that should translate into customer leverage and power. Next slide. We all know the enormous environmental and social costs and consequences of extracting and combusting fossil fuels. And what I look at here in this figure is one sentinel dimension of change, how the residential housing stock is doing in terms of moving away from gas heating to electric heating. The data come from a US Census Bureau housing survey. Looking at Cambridge over the last decade, the share of housing units heated by electricity has almost doubled, and there's been a modest decline in the share of units heated by gas. So things are moving in the right direction. At the same time, nearly 2/3 of the city's housing units are heated by either gas or fuel. So there's a lot of work to do. Next slide. Comparing the state as a whole to Cambridge, what we see is much less progress at the state level on electrification, less progress reducing gas heating, and a much higher reliance on fuel oil. For all housing units in Massachusetts in 2023, fossil fuels accounted for 73% of heating fuels. Next slide. Before looking closely at NSTAR, I want to consider the national picture. Following rapid growth after the Second World War, the gas distribution industry today is in its mature phase, exhibiting market saturation with plateaued customer growth and throughput. Competitive threats to gas are all around, from renewable energy sources and alternative space and water heating equipment, plus other efficient electric appliances. Right now, there are 2 big drivers of gas economics across the country, and they are ultimately in existential conflict with one another. The first is declining gas use per customer, which you see on the left. It's due to falling heating degree days, plus more conservation and efficiency, plus some fuel switching. We know at the national level, for example, that sales of air source heat pumps now outpace gas furnaces. The second driver is increasing capital spending on gas infrastructure. Now, why is that happening? It's because the gas industry now owns a lot of older infrastructure that's very expensive, but highly profitable to replace. The figure to the right shows a 3x increase in gas system capital spending over just the last decade. So again, these two trends are in tension with one another, and together they're putting customer bills on an inexorable upward march because rates have to rise to recoup this capital spending, which essentially becomes a fixed cost that is to be recovered over a smaller sales volume. Next slide. So let's turn to NSTAR now. I found the numbers, did the calculations, and NSTAR shows the same pattern as the United States: falling use per residential customer and double-digit growth in gas plant. The graph to the left shows a 2% annual rate of decline in gas use per residential customer over the last decade. The denominator number of customers has actually been increasing at about 1% per year. So it's falling gas demand that's been pulling this ratio down. On the right-hand side, you see NSTAR's gas plant in service at the end of each year. It's increased from 1.1 billion in 2015 to 2.7 billion in 2024. 164% increase, or a compound annual growth rate of 10%. The growth in gas plant is due to two broad categories of capital spending: GSEP and non-GSEP, with GSEP constituting just over half. Now, GSEP, of course, is the Commonwealth's program for accelerating the remediation of leak-prone pipeline materials. It was instituted by the legislature in 2014, and the state's 6 investor-owned gas utilities each participate. I've calculated that if that program stays its course, GSEP will cost Massachusetts gas customers on the order of $42 billion. NSTAR uses non-GSEP spending too, and it's directed at pressure regulation modernization and other resiliency and reliability projects, including maintaining 7 gate stations. NSTAR also invests about $20 million a year to provide line extensions that hook up new customers. Next slide. So let's look more carefully at NSTAR's GSEP program. The company's principal goal has been to replace over 1,100 miles of mains and associated services by 2039. A decade in, NSTAR is about 35% of the way there, with some 700 more miles left to address. NSTAR measures its progress in terms of miles replaced, reduction in leak rates, and avoided methane emissions. The figure indicates how much NSTAR's GSEP has cost so far. It's 1.1 billion in direct capital costs. You can see that GSEP spending started out at $44 million in 2015. It's grown 17% per year, and in 2024 hit 182 million. So who's paying for the 1.1 billion? It's NSTAR gas customers are on the hook for all of these costs. The payback happens via the delivery charges on customer bills over the 60-year lifetime of the pipes, and importantly includes a guaranteed rate of return or profit rate to NSTAR investors of 9.9% on the equity portion of the capital used to finance the projects. The DPU recently issued its 2025 GSEP orders, and Representative Owens is going to talk more about this. But for the first time, the DPU cut back allowable GSEP spending by a small increment, initiating, in my view, much needed cost containment. It's also taking important actions to restore GSEP's focus on safety by prioritizing the riskiest pipes. Next slide. So what about NSTAR's future capital spending plans? NSTAR's 5-year plan is to move forward with nearly $400 million in capital spending each year for the next 2 years, and then a slightly larger amount in years 2028 and 29. The planned increases would total 1.7 billion, with roughly equal spending on GSEP and non-GSEP, as shown in the chart. Although the DPU's cost containment for GSEP may impact this. Again, all of this planned future spending would get folded into the delivery rates that customers pay over several decades. Next slide. So let's look now at how capital spending filters down through to customer bills. The figure to the left shows the charges making up an N-Star gas bill in February 2025 for a customer using 100 therms. The first bar in red, far left, shows that the actual gas used by this customer cost $92.60. Then you see a series of 6 charges for delivery and distribution. In last winter's debate over high gas bills, attention got deflected to the energy efficiency charge, the orange bar, which helps fund the Mass Save program. The amount, $57.02 for 100 therms, is non-trivial, as economists say. But we also know that these dollars are helping lower gas demand. We saw that a few slides back. In fact, the energy research firm Synapse estimates that annual gas consumption in Massachusetts would be about 13% higher, but for the Mass Save gas efficiency investments made to date on behalf of gas customers. People also got the mistaken impression that GSEP was actually costing customers less than the efficiency charge. So compare the purple GSEP charge at $20.66 with the efficiency charge. But that's not true. The purple charge on our bills only covers new GSEP, that is, GSEP occurring since the company's last rate case. Old GSEP is already included in the main distribution charge, the green bar. That's why I put a placeholder in that green bar for old GSEP. Now, to complicate the story further, for N-Star, there's a deeper circulation. In the right-hand side figure, you can see nearly $1 billion in capital investment that N-Star has made since its last rate case. Those amounts have been accruing outside the company's approved rate base. The GSEP portion of that, about $500 million, is temporarily being recouped through the new GSEP charge. These significant amounts of capital spending are scheduled to be rolled in to normal rate making come this November. This will cause the green bar to rise up and the purple bar to decrease. So pay attention to that capital roll-in because it's definitely going to impact N-Star customer rates. Next slide. So let's move from looking at customer rates at a moment in time last February to what's happened over the past decade. You can see that delivery-related charges, including the charge for new GSEP, are on an upward trajectory. They've increased from 39 cents per therm in 2015 to 94 cents in 2024, or by 15 cents per year. It's also clear that these charges accelerated with the implementation of N-Star's multi-year rate plan in 2019. Since that year, delivery-related charges have been increasing at 22% per year. So the key takeaway is this: utilities use customer delivery charges to recover past capital spending, and these charges are quietly rising at double-digit rates because of the large-scale sustained capital spending. And that's before the cost of gas itself and the fixed monthly charge. Next slide. So I know this is a lot of facts and figures, and by the way, all of my data sources are provided in the very last slide. But to sum up, here are some lessons with relevance to all gas territories in the Commonwealth. First, Cambridge's housing stock has made progress on moving toward electrification, but it is still heavily reliant on fossil fuels. This will be more or less true for each Massachusetts jurisdiction. Second, gas delivery charges for customers are on a steep upward trajectory driven by capital spending and declining gas use. Third, NSTAR knows where it's going on the gas side, full steam ahead with a 25-year project to basically replace half of its gas mains, a project that's only about 35% complete, plus heavy spending on non-GSEP projects to further modernize its system. The company also has been exploring network geothermal with an important pilot in Framingham. Finally, I think a key missing piece is, what do residents want, given the enormous opportunity cost of this gas capital spending in the midst of our grave climate crisis? I'm super excited to hear from Representative Owens about his public policy perspective on the energy transition. But I first want to briefly mention an exciting initiative in Newton where National Grid customers on one part of one street are creating ground-up pressure for electrification in lieu of replacing a gas pipe under GSEP. John Slott, a retired engineer who lives on that street, is the mastermind behind this effort, and I have his permission to share some brief information. Next slide. Residents of the southern section of Garland Road in Newton got wind of the fact that National Grid was planning to replace 600 feet of gas pipe that has yet to show any leaks. People got together to talk about alternatives and do the homework as to what it would cost to electrify instead. Next slide. They surveyed each building and costed out an electrification alternative, the needed air source heat pumps and mini splits, duct installation, heat pump water heaters, induction stoves, heat pump clothes dryers, electrical panel upgrades, and even one driveway heater. And then they compared that to National Grid's cost for replacing 600 feet of pipe. Bottom line, the direct costs of electrification are 41% lower than that of replacing the gas pipe. And then there are massive savings in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Nothing's been decided yet, but John can give a masterclass in how to undertake this kind of effort. Next slide. So I mentioned this Newton initiative because the same kind of effort could perhaps get traction in Cambridge. Here's a map of NSTAR's proposed GSEP projects for Cambridge through 2029. Could mothers out front help residents and gas customers create pressure for strategically downsizing local gas systems? I think this kind of pressure could make a real difference. And Cambridge would have the advantage of working with a utility that supplies both gas and electricity. So that's the end of my presentation. It's great to be here, and take it away, Steve.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dorie, and thanks for that great presentation. I am, I'm going to just share my screen real quick. Let's see. And we're going to try to answer the question that I ask myself pretty much every day over the past, how many months has it been? Where are we? How did we get here? What is going on? Because there's a lot going on. And I think understanding, Dorie gave a fantastic presentation of kind of the consequences of GSEP, the GSEP program, and the incentives that are kind of baked into it. And I thought I'd take the opportunity, because I know we have a lot of people who worked on this stuff as it happened 10, 11 years ago. And we also have people who just started to think about gas. So I thought it'd be helpful to just do a little bit of history, talk about how we got where we are, and then kind of how that leads into some next steps that we can control. So where are we? How did we get here? The problem that we had, that we were trying to solve, that GSEP is trying to solve, are gas leaks. And I know a lot of people here have been involved in the Gas Leaks Allies, now the Gas Transition Allies, and this was a big effort to solve gas leaks in the gas system. And prior to the Gas Leaks Act of 2014, the utilities didn't really do a good job of maintaining their gas system, partly because they weren't incentivized to do so. And as Dorie pointed out in some of her graphs, the system is only getting, they inherited a very old system. We've got pipes that are 100+ years old. Why stop the gas leaks? Gas leaks make the system more costly, right? We're all paying for leaks that come out. Wherever they come out, we're paying for the total amount of gas that goes through the system. So they're costing us more money. It makes the system more dangerous. The more leaks that you have in the system, the higher the pressure you need for the gas to go through. And that can have really devastating consequences, as we saw in the Merrimack Valley explosion that precipitated this. More methane in the atmosphere. Methane is a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And I won't say the numbers because I don't know it off the top of my head, and I forgot to write it down. But the more methane in the atmosphere is worse for the climate, particularly in the short term. And, a lot of people got involved in this because the gas leaks were killing street trees. Gas gets into the root system, kills the trees, and the trees are another tool that we have in fighting climate change. So not only was the methane going into the atmosphere and acting as a greenhouse gas, but it was also destroying one of the tools that we have for keeping ourselves cool. So the solution was the 2014 Gas Leaks Act, and that's where GSEP comes in. This incentivizes the utilities to finally spend time fixing the gas leaks, right? GSEP is the Gas System Enhancement Program that Dorie did such a great job talking about. It incentivizes, it allows the cost recovery for pipeline replacement, right? So it means that the utilities can go and replace some of these pipes, and they will be able to charge that back to ratepayers. So what happened after that is the utilities started replacing gas infrastructure. They started doing what we had thought we were asking them, and that was replace gas pipes and try to address these gas leaks. So that's exactly what we wanted, right? That's exactly everything worked out, and there were no unintended consequences. Well, not really. No good deed goes unpunished, which is something that I like to say. So the real reason for all this is because a gas utility is highly regulated. How do we, if I'm a gas utility, increase revenue when the price of gas that I get is set by the market and I am regulated to the point where I can only take a certain amount of profit from gas delivery? Well, what they quickly found out was they build more pipeline. If I am incentivized to build pipes because I can charge that back, well, I can't raise more revenue by charging more for gas, but I can raise more revenue by building more pipe. And what this has really, and Dorie did a great job talking about this in some of her work, is at first, through the GSEP program, the utilities were going through and trying to spot fix the leakiest pipes. This was a little bit of a problem because they would fix them and really not clue in the utilities, and we'll get back to that later. Not clue in the municipalities. So the utilities would come in, tear up a street, and fix a gas leak, and then leave the municipality to repair it, particularly a problem with spots where they had just repaired the street and then the gas utility comes in, tears it up to fix a leak. So eventually what happened, within a year of doing that, the gas utilities and the municipalities got a little bit more smart about it. And so when the municipalities were opening up a whole street, the gas utility would say, hey, that pipe is leak prone. It may not be leaking now, but it's leak prone. We'll replace a whole stretch of it rather than replace just just the leaking part of it. And so spending increased by 21% per year annually, yet only 3% of the leaky pipes were being fixed since this program started. It's the numbers that I have. And the next thing that happened, of course, a lot of people worked really hard to get the 2021 climate roadmap law, which sets our net zero targets, right? Net zero by 2050. And if we're going to be meeting that target, that means we are going to have to significantly reduce the amount of gas that we use for home heating, down to practically zero. If we are doing that, that means we're going to have stranded assets. We're going to be building these pipelines as quick as we need to decommission them because we're trying to move people off of gas to electricity. Oh, is it not moving? All right. Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay. So we pass the climate roadmap. The next year, we pass the Act Driving Clean Energy and Offshore Wind. In this bill, the legislature passed language to make the electric companies produce an electric sector modernization plan. This was a plan for the electric companies to move forward. How are we going, if we're going to electrify everything, how are they going to be able to do it? Additionally, for our purposes here in this conversation, it allowed the utilities to use advanced leak repair in lieu of pipe replacement. So this is the first time that we said, all right, well, maybe you don't have to, decommission and retire the pipes. Maybe you can use advanced leak repair, which is putting like a sleeve inside of the pipe to prevent it from leaking. It is significantly less expensive than tearing the pipe out and putting in a new one. And it also created the GSEP stakeholder working group, which met, and I think there's probably some people who are on that working group on this call. So thank you for your service on that, in that working group to get a handle on how to reform GSEP. So by 2022, so just a few years ago, not even 10 years after the GSEP program was created, we knew that it was causing a problem. We knew that it was too expensive, and also putting in pipe that we are hopefully, or not hopefully, that we are planning to not need by the time we get to net zero. So those recommendations came out in January 2024. So it took a little while. Some of those recommendations we will see going forward. The DPU, the Department of Public Utilities, I don't think I have the date on this, but this was at the December 2024, I believe, put out a future of gas order. And that future of gas order, basically, finally, the DPU realized that we have climate goals. And to achieve those goals, we need to increase zero carbon and non-combustible heating sources. So at that point, they required the gas utilities to consider non-gas alternatives while they are looking at expansion projects. So that is, if I want more gas, if I need gas in that neighborhood of Newton, well, the DPU is required to consider these non-gas alternatives. And they must now file individual climate compliance plans. We saw the electricity companies, we had ordered them to file plans on how they were going to generate and have a stable enough grid to in our electrify everything future. Well, now we've done the same thing with the gas companies. All right, we're going to ask you how you're going to comply with our climate goals. And the order also supports these pilots such as in Framingham, and the pilot that is in Boston at the affordable housing neighborhood down there to support these electrification pilots, including network geothermal. The other thing that it does is all these companies, the gas utilities, had different costs for line replacements. We're using different formulas to come up with their what they would charge back to the customers. This has standardized it. It seems like, you know, a pipe is a pipe. It should be able to have some control over costs when they do this expansion. 2024 climate law was passed. This is another mouthful of a bill title. The act promoting clean energy grid, advancing equity, and protecting ratepayers. So this was the bill we passed late last year. And this really sets the stage for what we're going to do next. There was a lot of great work in that bill that I know a lot of folks on this call worked really hard on. And one of the things that it did is it changed the definition of a gas utility in law. It changed the definition of a gas company to a thermal energy provider. So no longer is a gas company, you know, it makes sense, right? If a gas company delivers gas, that's all that they should do. Well, we don't want them to deliver gas anymore. Our climate goals say they can't just deliver gas anymore, or they'll be put out of business. So we're now giving them the opportunity, just by redefining what we call them and what they are in statute, to a thermal energy provider. Changes the obligation to serve natural gas by allowing these non-combustible service to new territories. So again, we are moving forward on these non-combustible services. And it repeals Section 3 of the Gas Leaks Act. So we're already taking a look at that Gas Leaks Act to make sure that what we did then still makes sense now. In this particular case, this Section 3 was something that DPU had asked the legislature to get rid of, because it was kind of holding the DPU. It was restricting what they could do to either approve or change the plans when utilities wanted to move forward with gas expansion in a new territory. This was one of those things where a may had to become a shall, or a shall had to become a may, for them to be able to, you know, be empowered to even say, no, you can't move forward on that project unless you look at some non-combusting alternative. So what does all that mean? Again, gas companies can do just more than just deliver gas. We don't want them to deliver gas in after 2050. And we want them to ramp down before then. So now they are empowered to do more. They can do things like utility scale network geothermal, which we've talked about. Other electrification projects. It doesn't have to be network geothermal. It may be the case that a guy at the end of the pipe, it's going to cost too much to get him fitted out with natural gas. So maybe the gas company now has another electrification project. It's cheaper to give him a ground source or an air source heat pump rather than build pipeline infrastructure into his neighborhood. These are things that the gas company can now do, because they're not just restricted to give gas. They could do efficiency measures. So things that Mass Save does now, the gas companies can do to help people get to the point where they to provide thermal energy to them. And utility incentives can now start aligning with climate goals. And this is the changes to GSEP that Dorie talked a little bit about earlier. Is that when DPU ordered just a few weeks ago ordered GSEP changes to ramp to start putting some reins around what GSEP was going to be able to do. So what's next? There are a couple bills that we have this session that I wanted to just bring to folks' attention. So the first is the governor filed her bill. Her bill is an act relative to energy affordability. This is her affordability bill. This is her response and the EEA's response to the high gas prices over the winter, and the high energy bills rather over the winter. This is an opportunity for all of us. While there's nothing specific about GSEP in this bill, we can make an argument that if you are looking to lower people's bills, one of the places that you need to look is not just, mass save. It's not just, solar incentives. It's pipeline construction incentives that are built in there, which dwarf the solar incentives for sure. And, to the extent that, we want to be incentivizing efficiency or incentivizing building out of the gas system, which we're hoping to and working towards decommissioning, if we had to choose between one of those being charged back on our gas bills, I would say the efficiency one makes more sense going forward than the building out of the gas system. There's some resistance, or there's resistance to changing GSEP because a lot of the utilities make money, and two, there are some safety reasons to do it. If it was working as intended, if it was solving the most dangerous leaks consistently, if we saw that number of, that amount of leaky pipe decreasing, we might be able to say, all right, well, it's worth it for getting rid of the leaks. The other part of it that is that we hear from the utilities, and I think there was a question in the chat about that, is those charges on the gas bills, those delivery charges, which includes all this stuff. We are being told by the gas companies and the utilities that these are legislative priorities that we're all paying for. These are policy things that we're paying for. And then they start talking about mass save, and they start talking about all of the ratepayer charges that we want to do for moving towards the future. They never mention GSEP. They never mention the charges that they like. So they want you to when they're talking about the delivery charges, they're making a very concerted effort to talk just about energy efficiency. So I want you to everybody to keep that in mind the next time somebody says, "Oh well, the reason our gas bills are so high are because of mass save." Anyway, I got a little bit off topic because what I did want to talk about is the tactical transition bill. This is a bill that I filed with Rep. Jenny Armini in the House and Senator Cream in the Senate, and this is kind of the next step of the gas transition bill that passed last session. So this requires the utilities to plan that clean energy transition. This puts that DPU order from just a few weeks ago into law. Right. This shifts the resources away from replacing gas pipelines with new ones to new technologies, whether that be, and again, where feasible, where economical, where possible, as we go forward. We're not going to be able to switch everybody over to network geothermal in every neighborhood right now, tomorrow, but this is a long-term play. We have, we've given ourselves till 2050. 2050 is, closer than we think, but, we still have time to move people neighborhood by neighborhood. The other part of this we want to make sure we're doing is having an equitable transition for gas workers. The last thing we want to do is, we want allies in this fight, and we want to be able to have people trust that we will, either through retraining, either through, making a lot of these, the work that's being done, for example, with network geothermal is similar work. To get the pipes are the same. It's just they're a different color because a different thing is running through them. So we can do this transition in a way that doesn't leave people behind. And this is a really important and it's a really tricky part. And it's something that, I know a lot of you are from Cambridge here. I've been having a lot of conversations with my colleague, Rep Decker, who's been fantastic on this and has a lot of just transition bills that she's working on. And together, I hope we can pull together, some really, really good language that make people feel comfortable that we're not leaving them behind. So this bill, I think, is something we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about for the rest of the session for sure, and it's something I'm going to be working on. This is not a bill that is in its final perfect form. This is a bill that we're going to need to work on a lot to get it to a point where we can keep moving forward with our transition. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great project, and I'm going to need all your help as we move forward. The other part of this is the Municipal Voices Bill. This goes back to that first conversation that we had on the Gas Leaks Act. This is with the municipalities not being informed about gas work that's happening. This is about planning as much as anything else. When the gas work happens, we want it to be planned in a way where the municipalities, when they open up the road, they can do all the work that they need at the same time and don't have to reopen it later. Everybody's got a story about some place in town where they just redid the road, beautiful, smooth, and then all of a sudden a new customer comes on and they tear it. The utilities come, tear it up, and then it's ruined for another however long until they can repave it. So this is something that the municipalities are very very behind. I know that I think I saw a couple people I know who have been working on this for a long time on the call. But also it allows that street in Newton that Dorie was talking about. It ensures that those municipalities can propose those alternatives, right? It puts them in the driver's seat as much as it puts the utilities in the driver's seat. So those are the kind of the three bills I've got my eye on for this session. I'm hopeful that we will we have been getting a climate bill every session for the past 4, I think. And I am, nothing is certain, certainly not in this time, where stuff from Washington is we've got a lot of headwinds. I'll put it that way. I'll put it politely. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to show leadership here in Massachusetts with a really strong climate bill that moves us still again toward a net zero, towards our net zero goals, despite what's happening in Washington, despite what sort of obstacles might get thrown in our way, and looking forward to working with you all on that. So thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm having glitches. I hope you can hear me all right. If you can't. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're breaking up, Elena.
Yeah. Yeah. So Diana, why didn't you again and you take over from me?
Great. Thank you very much, Representative Owens. Thank you very much for your incredible work on passing the bill last year, and for this great presentation. Maybe we can take just a moment to thank all the elected officials, representatives that are here. Let's see. I believe that the representative from Sal Di Medico's office is here, Ellie Fenichel. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Let me think. Those, yes.
I actually have the list if you would let me
Yes.
tell people. So
Please
we thank we very much thank Jeevan Sabrino Wheeler from the Cambridge City Council for attending, as well as Jim Snyder Grant of the Acton Select Board and Allison Leary of the Newton City Council. Also with us are Eli Fenichel from Senator DiDomenico's staff and Catherine Tolley from Representative Owens' staff. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Back to you, Deanna.
Thank you, Marjorie.
You're
So
welcome.
the first question came from Sal Di Domenico's office, and it was about the amount of spending, the amount of increase in energy bills that's due to mass save. And I believe that Representative Owens has already addressed that issue, but we would be happy to provide some more details on that via email, because we have some interesting documents. And so I was hoping we could move on to the next questions. The one very sharp question is, why are we resolved to secure our energy future using the same business model and essentially the same actors, the utilities, that led us to this point? So I wonder if Representative Owens or Dr.
I'm happy to answer that question. I think, the hope was to have a partner in the utilities to decarbonize. They're the folks that we have. You're right. They have got us into this mess. So why do we rely on them to get out of this? I think the scale of what we need to do and how long it would take and the political capital that it would take to reinvent everything. I don't know that we would have gotten as far as we've gotten already. And, I don't want to say that we're where we need to be, but, we've come a long way just in these couple of years. We've come a long way from, GSEP is essential, that the gas is essential and, gas is where the future is, to getting off to, looking for plans to get off of it in just a few years. So I don't want to take away from how far we've already come. But I do want to, I do think that most of the reason why we are doing this with the utilities is because we don't have much of another choice. We could nationalize them, I guess. We could take them all over. I don't know that that's something that is realistic at this point. I know we've got a lot of municipal light plants, and they're doing some really good work as well. But I think I think we have a better shot of having the utilities as a partner if we can give them the right incentives. And I think the lesson of GSEP is, if we give them the right incentives, they'll do the thing we want them to do, right? We wanted them to make money by fixing pipes. They figured out how to do it. And if we can get them to, incentivize them to do non-combustible work, non-combustible heat, they'll figure out a way to do it. So that's my take on it.
Representative Owens, there are several other questions that address something that you've just touched on. What is the DPU doing to actually guide this transition and to put pressure and the right incentives, if that's the right thing to do, on the utilities.
Yeah, so the DPU has done a lot to this, and these were the most recent order requires and I think Dorie might be the a better person to say exactly what's in the DPU order, but the most recent order from the DPU makes it clear that the gas companies need to have a transition plan, a climate plan. They are likely to come back and say things like, well, what about renewable natural gas? What about that? DPU has already said they're not convinced about renewable natural gas as a climate solution. So they have been moving forward. It's never as fast as we like, but I have been really impressed with the DPU and how it has, tried to move us forward, and really, tried to implement this is what we wanted to do as a legislator, right? We wanted to move forward on the things we told it to do. We told the gas, we said we wanted these, we put these climate goals into law, and the DPU is, trying to actualize those. So it's been, I think I've been really impressed by the commissioner and what they've been able to do so far.
Dr. Seavey, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I completely agree with what Steve said. I think we're very, very fortunate to have Chair von Nostrom, and the Massachusetts DPU is really one of the most progressive public utility commissions in the country, hands down. So we've made a lot of progress.
Thank you, Dr. Seavey.
Can I read a question from the chat? Do you mind? We have a question from our climate chief in Cambridge, from Julie Wormser. She asks, do we have a solution for what happens to the last percentage of gas customers stuck paying for the stranded gas infrastructure? So that's an important question. And I also wanted to acknowledge that we have Kathleen Hornby here with us from Rep. Decker's office.
So that's a huge problem, and it's going to be a problem whether we do something or not, right? That's a problem independent of any bill we are filing, because people, and particularly in Cambridge, people are moving off of gas. They're moving on to heat pumps. So there's going to be that last grandmother problem. The last person who has to pay for the entire gas system to get heat to their house, whether we pass any of these bills or not. So that's not something that's unique to what we're trying to do. That is a problem of getting off of gas, period. And the solution is to help people get off of it, honestly, to make sure that there's not that as we do this neighborhood by neighborhood, that people aren't left behind. That means talking about, does the gas company have to deliver you gas, or do they have to make sure your house is warm enough, one way or the other? And that's a question that, as we move forward, as there are more people moving off of gas, we're going to have an answer for. So that's what I would say to that.
Dr. Seavey, do you have something to add to that?
I mean, I don't think we'll ever get the system will fall apart before we get to that point. I think that you can see in the climate compliance docket that the utilities are thinking about, how to change cost recovery so that we won't have stranded assets. So I think there are smart people thinking about that. It's going to, take a lot of work, but we're going to have to change the period over which the assets get cost recovery, and we have to figure out who's going to pay for it. But I think the important thing is to acknowledge that it's a problem and attack this problem and make a plan for it. Because I see in some states, gas utilities say there are no stranded assets today, therefore we don't have to talk about the stranded asset problem. And I think that's just not a constructive point of view to take. So the Department of Public Utilities has asked the gas companies in every filing now, every GSEP filing, tell me about your stranded assets, what's the plan? And there is an emphasis on this in the climate compliance docket too. So I think we're starting to do that work. It's going to take some imagination and compromise and deals, I'm afraid. So that's what I think.
Thanks, Dr. Seavey. I wanted to read just one last question. We still have a lot of questions, and unfortunately, though, we've run out of time. So I'll ask this last question. It's for Representative Owens. Does the Tactical Transition Bill require the thermal energy providers to organize teams to work with municipalities on neighborhood electrification and neighborhood and networked geothermal? Here in Newton, we get the runaround from the gas utility, National Grid.
Yeah, so this will moves that forward. Yeah, I can't guarantee that you won't get the runaround from your gas utility or your electric company on anything, because that seems to be pretty standard operating procedure. But one of the things that it does do is and I don't know what the situation in Newton is, but I know what in Watertown, we have Eversource for electric and Grid for gas. So that bill does require the companies to come together and form joint plans on how to get people. So they are nominally working together. In a place like Cambridge, where Eversource is gas and electric, it's less of a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but in a place like Watertown, where I live, it is a problem, because if the gas company is losing customers and losing money, they're going to be fighting harder if they're not gaining them on the electric side. So I don't know exactly the situation in Newton, but I think this will only help.
Thank you, Representative Owen. I wanted to say that we see here quite a few select board members and counselors from other municipalities besides Cambridge, and we're very pleased about that. And I just wanted to ask if you have a message for them, for what they can do in order to support the legislation or facilitate better coordination with utilities, gas utilities, so that they will consider non-pipe alternatives.
Yeah, I mean, keep making noise. I mean, I am extremely impressed by the ability of Mothers Out Front to fill a room, to fill a presentation, a evening Zoom, and I know that you all get people's attention, and I know that I imagine if that's true for me as a legislator, I'm sure it's true for a select board member or a city or town councilor. So keep working, keep doing what you're doing to spread the word, because none of this that I talked about or that has happened without you. It was because of folks on this call who were working, calling representatives, calling the governor's call, submitting comments to DPU dockets, things that normal people don't do. So keep doing things like that. And, so thank you again for inviting me on today and continuing that work.
Thank you for your kind words. We are way over time, so I wanted to take a moment, just one more time to thank our wonderful speakers for tonight. And we would like to mention that we will follow up. This presentation has been recorded, so we will follow up with a recording and next action steps. And if you take a look in the chat, our wonderful tech support, Deb, is already putting in some links to help you take actions and sign up for Mothers Out Front newsletter and the neighborhood electrification petition, which we hope you will sign. But I would like to thank everyone for being here. I think Elena might have trouble with her internet, so it's going to me.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm back, but thank you. Sorry, everybody, for the glitches. Thank you, Diana, for your ability to take over. I really appreciate it, and to our speakers and everybody who's here with us tonight. Take it away, Diana.
So yes, thank you for joining us tonight, and have a great evening, and stay in touch with us.